session for members of the committee. We had a meeting earlier that started at 10, focusing on 2 legislations. So we are now having a meeting with the department and its entity on the annual performance plan for 2023-2024, as well as that of the NDT. Good afternoon once again, and welcome again, honorable members. Welcome, Deputy Minister. Can we start with the apologies from members, and then we go to the department?
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon.
And honorable members. We still have the same apologies that we had in the morning. There are no changes. Members present, we have Honorable Moshodi, we have Honorable Lon,
recording in
Honorable
progress.
Dango, Honorable Boshoff, Honorable Mabula for now. And the staff, we have Honorable Mr. Sishuba, Mr.
We don't know.
We have Honorable, we have Mr. Bazir. That's all, Chair. And we have an apology that the minister will be 15 minutes late.
Okay. Oh,
No, Chairperson.
Honorable Lord is also here.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. My apologies. I was just trying to log in.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
With the network, I've got a problem with the network.
To the honorable members, I am really honored today to have my first meeting
Chair.
with you. I'm joined by DM, and we look forward to engaging with you. I am just going to ask your permission, Chairperson, if I can be excused at 3:30 to get a flight, but DM will be staying with you for the full meeting. But thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, and welcome to our first meeting. I'm sure we are not strangers to you.
No.
The arrangement in the NCOP is that we oversight so many departments. We have 2 committees. One sits on Tuesday, the other one sits on Wednesday.
Yes.
The one that is transport, public works, and infrastructure. So we've met you when you were the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, but
That's
that
right,
meeting is chaired on Wednesday by Honorable Moimang. I chair on Tuesday the departments that are under this committee, which sits on Tuesday, is the Department of Tourism, Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, Department of Small Business Development, and Department of Employment and Labor.
Yes.
On Wednesdays, Department of Public Service and Administration, Public Works and Infrastructure, Department of Transport, and a new one that has been given to us towards the end of last year is a DPME, Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. Yeah, we welcome you to this tourism team. I don't know if there are any other apologies except yours from the department. Was in the DG yet?
DG?
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. We are all here. We are here to support Minister and the team. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think there's a hand there. I don't know. You can go ahead and see the name.
No, Masonto.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Honorable Minister, and all the members in the room. My name is Tomaso Ndlovu from South African Tourism. I would like to September Kumalo, the acting chief executive of South African Tourism.
Sorry, Chair. On a point of order, Chair.
Okay, you can go ahead, Honorable Sof.
She's very faint. If she could just speak into the mic. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. We're struggling to hear you, Ms. Ndlovu.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Is that better?
Much better.
Okay, thank you so much. I was saying I wanted to report the apology from Mr. Themba Khumalo, the acting chief executive at South African Tourism, who's on a business trip. I am acting this week whilst he's away, so I will be representing him at this meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Without wasting any time, honorable members, let's hand over to the minister to make open remarks. I'll suggest, Honorable Minister, that your open remarks cover both the department and the entity. And after that, then you'll hand over to the DG for the presentation of the department's report. And then later, Ms. Ndlovu will then take us through the report of the entity. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members. Honorable Chair, I must confess that a lot of the work and most of the work in the APP has been in coordination with the Deputy Minister, Fish Masalele, and we must thank him for that, and also the DG of the department. I came in at the tail end, and I was able to get all the briefings from DM and from the DG. So we look forward to working with the committee, advice from the committee. Tourism is a key sector in terms of job creation. And one of our priorities will be to look at how we can increase the number of job creation through the tourism sector by improving on our destination marketing to get more people to come and visit our country. I am aware that the portfolio committee, I'm not sure if the select committee will join us in Durban with the travel Indaba, where we are expecting about 5,000 delegates from all over the continent. They will be displaying and have exhibitions around what is available in the continent. So it's a real Pan-African gathering. And if the select committee is not being invited, I will really advise that you join us there to help us, you know, to engage with buyers that's coming from all over the world to the Indaba to help us to promote our country. From the department side, we have sponsored 120 small, medium enterprises in the tourism sector and provided some space for them where they can also come and display and be exposed to the world market to sell their goods. So we will also inform the committee about the 4 key priority areas that I have agreed on with the president last week, Thursday. And on those 4 key priorities, I have to report back to the president within 6 months. So at some later stage, I can go into detail and share with the select committee what those priorities are. But I will give over to Ms. Ndlovu, that's acting, to take us through the plans, and then we are willing and able to take some questions. But once again, thank you to the DM and the DG for all the work that they have put into this APP. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Maybe before you leave us, if you can just on the entity itself, just brief us on the issue of the board and the full-time CEO of the entity.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chair, for the opportunity. Honorable Chair, since I arrived here about 6 weeks ago, one of the issues that I had to deal with in terms of the board were issues that came from my predecessor. And the first elephant in the room that we had to deal with was the Tottenham Hotspur's deal on the table. We've successfully dealt with that. The deal is no longer going to proceed, and we are looking at the reprioritization of this deal has led to some money that has been shifted from other programs to this. So we're able to rectify that now. And one of the programs really is how do we grow our domestic market? So that was one of the issues. The second issue, honorable members, was the composition of the board. The composition of the board no longer reflected what is required in the law, that it should reflect the demographics, the representativity in terms of provinces, gender, and race. So that was another issue, the composition of the board. And I then wrote to the members of the board, to the chairperson of the board, raising the 3 concerns with him. And then on the 6th of April, I wrote a letter to the chairperson of the board to request the board to advance reasons as to why the board should not be dissolved. And I gave them until the 18th of April, which is today, to respond. I can confirm, Chairperson, that between me writing the letter to the chairperson of the board, that 8 of the board members have resigned. We are left with 3 board members, meaning that the board is not functional anymore. So on Friday, on Friday, through a government gazette, I will then officially dissolve the board. And in the same government gazette, my intention is to appoint 3 people to the board with experience in finance, experience in governance issues, experience in the tourism sector. And the 3 members that I will be gazetted, they will then have the full powers of the board. So the gazette will come out on Friday, the 21st. I booked the space with the government printers. And so that is where we are with the board. There are a number of issues within the entity that need to be attended to, which I will not go into now, Chairperson, except to say that the interim board, or the 3 members that I will be appointing, will have to deal with. And including, they will have to deal with the position of the CEO. And in terms of the act, the board, in concurrence with the minister, must deal with that specific issue of the CEO of the board. So I can write to chairperson officially in next week, just to give you the outcome of this process that's now work in progress as we speak. And then I have received a number of other issues and complaints, which I will never have all the time to investigate myself. So those will be the issues that I will then ask the board to go into, the interim board to go into. We hope also, Chairperson, that the interim board will only be there in the interim capacity until we can conclude the process of appointing a new board. So I will, in the best reasonable time, I will try and conclude the appointment of the new board. It's very critical because we are in the middle of a financial year. We are in the middle of implementing the APP. And then, of course, we are coming to the last term for the implementation of our MSTF. So in very reasonable time, I will have to do this, appoint this new board to assist us with the implementation. But I do think, Chairperson, also from my side, is that I will put in mechanism in place to do proper monitoring on the implementation of the task of the board. I think there's a weakness with no clear KPIs. And so in implementing and working with the new board, I hope that we can improve substantially on the current performance of South African tourism. As an entity of the department, and members are aware about this, over 50% of the budget of the Department of Tourism we transfer annually to SA Tourism. And I have spoken to the DG and to DM that we need to look at the service level agreement between the Department of Tourism and SA Tourism and work in clear deliverables for every single quarter of what need to be achieved in that quarter, and that we will improve the oversight and we will improve the monitoring and evaluation. So that is where we are now with the board of SAT. There are 3 members that have not received resignation letters from, 3 out of the 11. But the board is not functional now, because for the board to be functional, it needs to have minimum 9 members of the board. So just a short summary, Chair, of where we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for the update on the status of SAT. On the issue of Travel Indaba, we attended, there were quite a number of us from this committee last year. There was only one from the portfolio committee, because they were not given a permission by the chair of chairs. But we are in numbers as a select committee. We would look forward to attend again this year. I don't know if the committee secretary can confirm if we have received the letter of invite, because there are also processes in Parliament, approvals, a lot of people that must approve. It's a long list. So I wanted to check, Ms. Dinizul, have we received an invitation from the minister?
Chair, we have not received the invitation yet. Maybe
I
still
hope,
on the way.
Yeah, I hope the minister will take
Yes,
it up.
I will definitely check on this now because we have discussed it. And I know definitely before the end of the meeting, I can give Chairperson an answer because, you know, I would love you to attend, and I'm going to set up office there for the week. And maybe on your arrival, I can receive the committee and I can brief you about the whole program for the 4 days that we will be there. But let me just follow up with my office and I'll report back to Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. We'll really appreciate that. Just before you leave, I just want to check with members if on what you have updated us on, if they would like to pose questions before you leave. Honorable members. Okay, it seems not Honorable Deputy, Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, through you, sorry, I'm in load shedding, so I'm not going to switch on my video. I would like to commend the Minister on taking or on being proactive. We really need to see a South African Tourism Board work the way it should work, especially in light of the budget that they receive. And we're looking forward to see what these 4 key priorities will be and who these 3 committee members, board members will be that are going to run forward with the board until such time as the board can be constituted properly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Boshoff. Any other takers? It seems not. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Safe travel. Deputy Minister, I'm sure will deal with other policy and governance issues that arise from the meeting. Thank you very much. This stage will allow Gigi to delegate who will be, you know, usually would ask the DG's program to take us through the presentation. And thereafter, honorable members, we will take a SAD. So you will note issues that come from the APP of the department and also issues that come from ACT. And then we'll ask questions at the end of the 2 presentations. Thank you very much. Over to you, DG. After that, then the Deputy Minister will respond to some governance and policy issues, and then make closing remarks. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Good afternoon to yourself. Good afternoon to the Minister, to the Honorable members, the Deputy Minister, and to the colleagues, both from the department, SAT, as well as the colleagues from the side of the Parliamentary Secretariat. Honorable Chairperson, we have a presentation that we will be brief on some of the matters that you may somewhat be familiar with. We will still make sure that for this record, we do recap some of the things to confirm that indeed they are still what they are. The first part that we're going to deal with will be the vision and the mission. Then we'll deal with the values. And it is important that we outline these values and we express them in terms of the public record of Parliament. And also we'll then go to the outcomes as well as some of the risks that we have identified, which we are doing some work in terms of making sure that we mitigate those, but there are some that we as we progress, it would need a lot more effort than others. And we will then go into the extent to which we have aligned our plan with the overall strategic direction as outlined in the tourism sector recovery plan, but also in the ERRP and how we actually are taking those forward. Then I will then ask the DDGs, starting with Program 1, to come in and provide the details with regards to the specifics of the performance that is actually envisaged for the financial year 2023-24. The vision of the department has not changed, leading sustainable tourism development for inclusive economic growth in the country. And the mission still has not changed. And indeed, as we do this, we are largely driven by ensuring that the growth is inclusive and is sustainable. And we do that through good governance, which is quite important because we've got limited resources and we need to make sure that we invest these resources in the manner that would actually give us the best results. Strategic partnerships and collaboration. Of course, we do this, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, with due regard to what is provided for within the law. And of course, innovation and ensuring that we leverage the existing knowledge networks. And also we focus on effective engagement with stakeholders. Almost everything that we do would have quite a large set of stakeholders across different types of fields, and that probably would require individual engagements, but would also require collective engagements, and those are the things that we actually focus on. In terms of the values, Honorable Chairperson, we have got values that are focused on performance, and we've got focus also on the organization because of the need for us to actually have teams that would be able to effectively deliver. In terms of performance, we encourage people being innovative, and again, I underline it, within the confines of the laws that you've passed as Honorable Members of Parliament, that we must do what we do ethically, and that is something that drives us, and that is something that we strive for at all times, and that we must at all times have the customer in mind in terms of the ultimate delivery that we would actually be focusing on. And internally, we focus on making sure that there's empowerment of our workforce, but also most importantly that we are people of integrity. The entire organization, we work with integrity, and we also recognize people that are actually making a contribution in the organization, but also make sure that those that actually need some sense of development and so on, then they go back to the value that we talked about of empowerment. In terms of the strategic outcomes, we have an outcome, Honorable Chairperson, that focuses on the increase of tourism sector contribution to inclusive economic growth. And I do need to underline this one. There are two aspects that are quite important when it comes to this. One of those is that we need to ensure that we're contributing to GDP, but we are also contributing to jobs. But as we do that, there is an aspect where at times other sectors would say, or comparatively there would be a narrative that says that but such and such a sector or such and such an industry seems to be doing better in terms of what it contributes as its total contribution, or what it contributes as its direct contribution to the GDP. Now, it is an area that we always would need to say to ourselves, our measurement should be about, are we making a better contribution today than what we did yesterday? And that better contribution may not necessarily be on the basis that This year now we are contributing 4%, because if it is as compared to a 3% in the previous year or a 2%, but whether there is growth year on year on our own contribution within the sector, looking at the sector itself, because other sectors may also be growing. And in the main, the reality is that when other sectors grow, tourism also would be able to benefit from that, because it means people are getting jobs, people are also getting better incomes, people are actually getting better disposable income, and that also will then be able to benefit from when people are able then to start traveling and also to enjoy other services that we provide as tourism. So if we are seeing a growth from a point of view that says we are better than what we actually did last year, and we are continue to be better in the year after and so on, that would be a very good indication that indeed we are making a very good contribution. The second part to these outcomes is that we are striving to ensure that there's good corporate and cooperative governance, and this goes to issues about systems that are able to assist us in delivering the services timeously and to the relevant people, and ensuring that there's less and less inefficiencies in the system. And as we do that, then we also see it in the outcomes of the audit, that there should continuously be a sense of improvement in that regard. So those are some of the most critical, I would say, Honorable Chairperson, things that as we bring all the resources that we have got together, we are actually trying to get to that point where we are seeing the economy growing, but in an inclusive manner. In terms of the risks that we are seeing, Honorable Chairperson, there's an aspect of the risks that relates to the increase in terms of the contribution to inclusive economic growth. What we are seeing here is that report after report, the indications still remain that the changes in terms of transformation of the tourism sector, a lot of work still needs to be done. And in this regard, there are aspects that government can make a contribution, but there are also aspects that government would not necessarily be able to make a direct contribution because it does not necessarily own the value chain itself. And what we are then going to be focusing on, and I'm just going to highlight one in the interest of time, we are going to be looking at the aspects of facilitating the implementation of the Tourism Equity Fund. And this is work that the Minister has already commenced with in terms of making sure that going forward, then we are able to find solutions in this regard, and we will then be in a position to actually get back to the implementation of this. And this would actually then assist in terms of the aspect of transformation of this, of the transformation of the sector. Again, honorable members would know that we have got the National Empowerment Fund project that we do together, which is the Tourism Transformation Fund. Our view is that that particular program is not moving at the speed that we would have actually desired. It has got a lot of what one would call declines in terms of the applications. And we do need to look into that and to be able to say, but why are we not able to actually get some level of acceleration in that regard? And that one we would also be looking into. But at this point in time, the Tourism Equity Fund is the priority because it is at a standstill. The other one is actually something that is progressing. And when one looks at the products that we developed, Honorable Chairperson, using the Tourism Transformation Fund, these are very, 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 very good products. So it has a space. It does have some good value that it has generated, but our issues would then be, how do we make sure that it actually moves faster and it is also responsive a lot more in terms of making sure that it unlocks some of these potential investments that people want to get in that are actually targeted at inclusive growth of the tourism sector. The other aspect would be the infrastructure planning and the implementation of the infrastructure. We will be looking closely into the SLA issues with the DBSA to make sure that we continuously strengthen that, but also to make sure that we continue to fast track the delivery. There are currently about 23 projects that are already at an implementation phase. There are some projects that are still finalizing the processes of getting the actual implementation agencies on board. So those are some of the things that we'll actually be focusing on, putting a lot more effort and making sure that we are able to move forward in that regard. We can move on to slide 4. Slide, can't see that. Yes, slide 7, that's fine. Thank you. Then we have the issue about the challenges that may arise as a result of aspects that are not necessarily within our domain and that relate to travel facilitation. We do want to express our appreciation, Honorable Chairperson, for the recent announcements that were made by the President during the investment conference that relate to changes in the visa regime, and we are also happy that with the remainder of the countries, in terms of number that have actually been indicated, we are informed that it would mean that across the globe, the countries countries would either fall within a category of visa exempted, or they would actually be under the category of countries that require that apply through e-visa system, and that would then mean that there is no country that would not necessarily access the e-visa system unless if it does not need to have a visa to come to South Africa. And we are encouraged by that, and of course we will continue to work with our colleagues at Home Affairs with regards to issues of the turnaround times and so on, because those will be the most critical ones once they've actually affected all the other aspects that have actually been alluded to. So those are some of the things that we will continue to work together with Home Affairs, but we do believe that probably this risk, the manner it is phrased now, would probably be slightly different if we were in the current dispensation. So that would have rather been the issue of turnaround times as opposed to countries that don't necessarily have access to the e-visa system. The other issues on slide 8 would be issues pertinent to the product base and the impact in the main, the impact of COVID-19 on the product base. And that is an area that we will closely watch, including conducting some surveys to be able to understand that environment better. But there is even work that we are conducting in this regard that is to assist with investment facilitation, particularly for those high impact distressed products in terms of how they can actually be in a position to draw in investments that would enable them to actually be able to continue in terms of their operations. The last issue I would want to highlight is the issue related to contract management, and some of the things that we have had to look into, and we are still going to make sure that we expand on this as we go forward. And these are some of the things that the minister was also raising in terms of what we should perhaps look into in terms of our contracts, contract management capabilities and so on. But also in the main project management capabilities is to make sure that there is involvement of professionals. Professionals is like people that have got a professional designation as and when we are dealing with matters that require professional opinion. E.g., if we're dealing with infrastructure, our own advisory team, amongst those, there must be people that have got capabilities such as quantity surveying and so on. And if it means that we have to insource that or to outsource that for a shorter duration, so be it. If it means we have to insource on contractual basis for a shorter period linked to some of those projects, so be it. But being able to ensure that ultimately whatever we are going to be doing is something that would stand the test and would not have to go back and deal with the issues as a ex post facto, but we would have to make sure that we are dealing with these issues up front, and we are able to address these issues up front, and more like prevention would indeed be better than cure in this regard. So those are some of the things that we're going to be looking at much more closely. And we did also identify, Honorable Chairperson, the aspect of alignment between the department and the entity. And in this regard, I think Minister has already highlighted the aspect of making sure that we bring in an SLA and we work much closer with each other going forward, and ensure that the things that we are doing are all aligned to what would have been expressed from a policy perspective. Ourselves, the entity and the department being at the implementation end of that particular policy, but it is actually one policy, and there's just different legs that we may be focusing on, and also different aspects in terms of us also having the responsibility to advise the executive authority in terms of the responsibilities associated with the oversight on the entity. Honorable Chairperson, we have previously presented the recovery plan alignment in terms of the ERRP alignment with the alignment of our tourism sector recovery plan. Of course, within the tourism sector, within the ERRP, pillar number 8 there would be, I see the slides are, yes, they are now moving. Pillar number 8 there would be largely focusing, specifically rather, focusing on tourism recovery and growth. And it is that pillar that then was given expression through the tourism sector recovery plan. And in the tourism sector recovery plan, amongst other things that were focused on, without necessarily, I will still go to the slide that actually gives an overview of the tourism sector recovery plan. But amongst other things that were focused on, it does have an element of infrastructure. It does have an element of the mass public employment. It does have an element of skills development. It does have an element of green economy interventions. And in particular, with the green economy interventions, we do have the green incentive program, which deals with the retrofitment of the green energy and also water efficiencies and so And it's also some of the other related issues that we also have got to make sure that there's a contribution is the issues of gender equity and inclusion of women and youth. And in the rollout of the programs, these are things that are then integrated in that regard. In the mass public employment, we did participate in the previous year in the presidential employment stimulus, but it was rather a bit late because it was only after the medium-term budget and a bit of a shorter period for us to actually be able to massify that and so on. But this is something that we would want to actually look at as we go forward in terms of how best we can actually take advantage of that particular program as well. I then will go to what would be my last slide before I hand over to the DDGs. And specifically, this slide deals with what is contained in the tourism sector recovery plan. And the tourism sector recovery plan, by and large, was the basis upon which the APP that we'll be presenting today was built. So there's a sense of integration of the TSRP across the APP as we go through it. One of the things that I would want to highlight up front is that the TSRP, of course, has got a lifespan that is coming to an end next year. And we will then have to, much as it was actually designed for the purposes of taking us through the recovery and so on, there is a process in government which is the development of the master plans across the various sectors and the various industries, but not all, but selected sectors and industries. And we are one of those that have been selected for these particular purposes. And that process has got its own timeline of 2026. So there will be some updates that as we go forward, we will also do to make sure that there's an alignment with the master plans without changing the need for accountability on things that we have actually said we're going to do at a particular point in time, which is 2024. And then going forward, then we will then be able to indicate what else then is actually going to happen. So that process is underway, and we will then be at some point in time through the minister and team, we will then be able to bring it to the honorable members. But overall, we have presented this before. And we have gone through some of the details. In fact, we have actually also submitted a report in terms of where we are with regards to this to the SC. So I'm not going to waste the time of this meeting, and I will then ask DDG Ngwenya to take over from here to the next part of the presentation, program 1. She will hand over to DDG Manal, then DDG Chetia, DDG Sitwaba, and then she will hand over to our CFO to do the financial part. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. DDG Ngwenya.
Thank you very much, DG.
Thank you, DG. Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister, Honorable DM, and Honorable Members. We are Program 1 Administration, and we provide strategic leadership, management, and support services to the department. Our APP commitments for the financial year 2023-2024 are organized around 7 outputs, which are further unpacked into 10 output indicators. The first output relates to us achieving an unqualified annual audit, both on the financial and non-financial performance. The indicator is about the audit outcome on financial statements and performance information. The annual target is about the unqualified audit, and this is a cumulative target over the financial year, The first quarter is dedicated to the audit by AGSA, which is therefore conducted, and we also provide them with both financial and non-financial performance information. In the second quarter, that's where we receive the report from AGSA. The third quarter, in the event that we are going to receive any audit finding, we will then focus on the implementation of the outcome, and also use the opportunity to review our internal control measures. The last quarter, we continue with the implementation of the audit action plan. The second output is where we contribute to government's economic transformation agenda. On the first output, we focus on SMMEs, and we are committing to 40% of expenditure, which will then be generated, will be towards SMMEs. This is a non-cumulative target, and the 40% expenditure is planned for all 4 quarters. The next output indicator is about the payment of compliant invoices within the prescribed timeframes. The annual target is 100% payment of all compliant invoices within 30 days. This again is a non-cumulative target, and the 4 quarters will then also focus on the 100% payment of all compliant invoices. The next slide, please. The last output indicator on government's transformation agenda focuses on women-owned businesses. The annual target is 40%. This is a target which was introduced for the first time in the 2022-2023 financial year as part of the government transformation, government responsive planning and budgeting. This is also a non-cumulative target, and on all 4 quarters, we are committing to 40% of our procurement expenditure to be spent on women-owned businesses. On output number 3, this is where we deal with oversight over South African tourism. And we have an indicator that focuses on the number of public entity oversight instruments that we developed. In the previous financial year, we only had 4 instruments. For the current financial year, we've increased them to 6 instruments. The 4 relates to the target on quarterly oversight reports, 1 in each quarter. The 5th instruments relate to the development and the implementation of the departmental entity oversight framework. In quarter 1, we want to finalize the draft. Quarter 2 will focus on consultation within the department. And in the 3rd quarter, we will then have the framework finalized and approved. The last instrument relates to the governance protocol, which we intend to revise and facilitate approval. In the 2nd quarter, the target for the 2nd quarter is for the draft to be finalized. 3rd quarter, we will then focus on consultations on the draft. And in the 4th quarter, we then finalize the framework, the protocol, sorry. The next slide, please. The next output relates to our commitment to creating a capable and an ethical workforce within a caring environment. The first indicator deals with the percentage of vacancies. In the previous financial year, we had a 10% vacancy rate. For the 2023-2024, the commitment is for a 6% annual target on vacancies. And this is a cumulative target. The Q1, we will maintain a vacancy below 9%. Q2, we are going to go down to 8%. Q3 will achieve 7% and will close the financial year at 6%. The second indicator relates to our compliance with the employment equity targets. We have two targets under this output indicator. The first one relates to achieving a 50% representation at SMS level. So we are looking at women representing at least a minimum of 50%. This is a non-cumulative target, and the target is consistent throughout the 4 quarters on 50%. The second target relates to the employment and retention of persons with disabilities within the department. The national target, Honorable Chair, still stands at 2%. As a department, I think there is a typo here. As a department, we have increased our target by a percentage to 3%. And for the financial year, we will ensure that people with disabilities represent 3% of the total department. This is also a non-cumulative target, and in each quarter we are committing to maintaining 3% representation. Sorry about that. The next slide, please. The next output, the last indicator on the commitment on capable and ethical workforce is about the implementation of the workplace skills plan. The annual target is 100% implementation of the workplace skills plan. This is also a non-cumulative target, and all quarters, the focus is to ensure that 100% of that quarter's targets are therefore achieved. The next output relates to audit reports with the recommendation as per the approved internal audit plan. And the indicator is about the percentage implementation of the annual internal audit plan. The target is at 100% implementation. This is a cumulative target. We commence the financial year with 20%. In the next quarter, we then focus on 30% implementation, both for the second and the third quarter, and we close the financial year with 20%, which then takes us to 100% implementation. The next one relates to effective and efficient communication on departmental policies, programs, services, and projects. The indicator is the percentage implementation of the communications plan. We have now aligned our strategy to the GCIS planning, which stretches over an elective term or electoral term, and we annually review the implementation plan. The target for 2023 is 100% implementation of the communications plan. This is also a non-cumulative target, and each quarter has its own target, and we are committing to the implementation 100% for all the quarters. This then concludes, and I will hand over to DDG Malan. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister, DM, Honorable members, colleagues. I will be presenting Program 2, Tourism Research Policy and International Relations. As I'm sure the committee is aware, the branch enhances the strategic policy environment. We monitor the tourism sector's performance, and we enable stakeholder relations as well. We can move to the next slide, please. Honorable Chair, honorable members, I think I'm not going to go into this slide. As DG indicated, our APP is based on the tourism sector recovery plan that informed our priorities for the current financial year. Just perhaps to indicate that Program 2 is also responsible for the reporting by the tourism sector on the targets in the tourism sector recovery plan. So we coordinate the reports, and we also responsible for the implementation mechanisms for the National Tourism Sector Strategy. Honourable members will recall that parallel to this tourism sector recovery plan, which, as DG indicated, was put in place to take us through COVID, we are also implementing the National Tourism Sector Strategy, and we do have implementation mechanisms to make sure that indeed those actions are implemented. We can move to the next slide. Thank you. In the following couple of slides, Honourable Chair and honourable members, we have in Program 2 just illustrated how our 11 annual targets, which relates to 6 output indicators, also links to the tourism sector recovery plan, just to make those linkages very clear. On this slide, we highlight the projects in the APP that relates to the strategic pillar that speaks to protect and rejuvenate supply. That's the first pillar of the tourism sector recovery plan, and specifically intervention number 2 that speaks to the support for the protection of core tourism infrastructure and assets. And under this intervention, we have 4 APP projects that are listed on slide number 22. The first one relates to the assessment of the state of public-owned tourist attractions that is and was supported by the Department of Tourism. And we want to look at the condition of the public-owned tourism assets, with the aim of coming up with recommendations on their maintenance and upgrading in order to, of course, improve their quality to attract more tourists, both domestic and international. The second project relates to our M&E work, and that is the monitoring of our new and continuing capacity building programs, and that includes the implementation of norms and standards by tourism enterprises. The third one speaks to the implementation of our tourism skills and employment portal. The portal, which will start to be implemented in the beginning of the current financial year, will assist the industry with a platform to source qualified candidates in the tourism sector. And the fourth project relates to the tourism guide information system, which we will also implement in the beginning of the current financial year. And we will use this system to assist us to monitor the tourist guides registered across the country and regulate the tourist guides effectively. This, of course, honourable members, is a requirement of the Tourism Act. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. We are now moving, Honourable Chair and honourable members, to strategic pillar number 2, which speaks to reignite demand, and specifically strategic intervention number 4, which speaks to the stimulation of domestic demand through targeted initiatives and campaigns. And under this theme, we have 3 projects in Program 2. Excuse me. The first project speaks to the evaluation of the departmental incubation approach. And this will ensure, or the aim of this project is to ensure that we as a department have adopted a proper approach to strengthen the capacity of tourism enterprises. We want to look at whether the approach that we took over the last couple of years are indeed the best approach. The second project speaks to the evaluation of the Tourism Grading Council accommodation grading program. I think this also links, Honourable Chair, to what Minister has said in her opening remarks around the monitoring and evaluation of projects implemented through South African tourism as part of our oversight. And then the last project under this strategic intervention and pillar speaks to our biannual monitoring of the performance of the tourism sector. That's where we provide a report on the performance of the sector. Next slide, please. This slide, then, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, slide number 24, relates to the third strategic pillar, which speaks to the strengthening of the enabling capability, and specifically towards the tourism regional integration, which is the 8th strategic intervention in the tourism sector recovery plan. We have 3 specific projects under this intervention. The first is to advance South Africa's tourism interest at our regional, continental and global level through participation in multilateral fora. South Africa is a member of these multilateral fora, and we drive the interest of tourism through our participation. The second project under this intervention speaks to the hosting of our outreach programs with diplomatic communities, and we have targeted 2. We have started with this project in the previous financial year, and it really assisted us to work with our diplomatic corps in reaching out to them, of course, to promote South Africa as a preferred destination. And then the third project is the hosting of our annual best practices workshop as part of regional integration. The next slide, Honourable Chair, speaks to the area in the tourism sector recovery plan that speaks to enablers, important enablers that needs to be in place for us to implement the tourism sector recovery plan successfully. And as a branch, we work on a number of initiatives, but specifically in the targeted partnership between the industry and public sector, private and public sector. Also noting that the recovery plan and the national tourism sector strategy were and are sector strategies and not strategies for the department specifically. And then we also work with the relevant departments to ensure improved travel facilitation. DG spoke about the e-visa system. We also work with Program 4 around and the relevant department around tourism safety, and also matters around the turnaround times in the processing of tour operator licenses with Department of Transport. And these are just some of the enablers that assist us in implementing our APP and also the tourism sector recovery plan. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. Honourable Chair, this is sort of just a repetition of what I have just presented, but just to indicate that as a program, we have 3 outputs and 6 output indicators. Our first output indicator speaks to our number of monitoring and evaluation reports on tourism initiatives developed. Here we speak about the assessment of the state of the condition of the state-owned tourist attractions supported by the Department of Tourism. And we have our quarterly targets also stipulated there, Honourable Chair. In the interest of time, I think I'm not going to go through the quarterly targets, but of course, I'm ready to answer any questions on those. The second monitoring and evaluation report, we have targeted 5, speaks to the capacity building programs, which I also alluded to. The third target speaks, or the third report speaks to the evaluation of the departmental incubation approach. And we have listed the 4 incubators that we are going to look at specifically. The fourth report speaks to the evaluation of the Tourism Grading Council's accommodation grading program. And then the fifth report speaks to our performance reports for the tourism sector, the biannual reports. Then the second indicator speaks to the number of instruments developed for the improving tourism statistics. That specifically relates to the development of our National Tourism Statistics Plan. Honourable members might recall that in the previous financial year, we looked at the state of tourism statistics at a provincial level, and we want to use the information that we got through that project to assist us to develop a National Tourism Statistics Plan. Our third output indicator speaks to our number of information and knowledge systems implemented. Here we talk about the tourism skills and employment portal, as well as the tourism guides system. Our fourth indicator speaks to the number of fora that we prioritize to advance South Africa's interests through regional, continental, and global level. And that is, Honourable Chair, where we participate in the World Tourism Organization, the G20 through the specific tourism working group, the BRICS also through the working group that Minister chairs, within SADC, within the Indian Ocean Rim Association, and also within the AU. On the next slide, on slide number 30, we get to our fifth output indicator, which speaks to our sharing of best practices workshop. And really, this is an annual workshop. We hosted the 11th one in the previous financial year, and it is a program that have grown substantively since the first year we hosted it. And we also have plans to improve on the workshop moving forward. And then on our output indicator number 6, it's where we then implement our outreach programs with the diplomatic community. And we have targeted 2 outreach programs for the current financial year. Thank you, Honourable Chair, Honourable members. That brings me to the end of the presentation for Program 2, and I'm handing over to DDG Chetya for Program 3. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honourable Chair and Honourable members. With your permission, Honourable Chair, I'm going to keep my video off because I'm in a space that doesn't have great connectivity.
You can see a rainbow there.
Yes, indeed, Honourable Chair. So I will take you through the presentation then for a destination development. And that basically is slides 31 to 37. I think honourable members will be familiar with the work that we do in destination development. We essentially start by taking ideas, developing them into concepts. We implement some of those ideas ourselves through our expanded public works program, but we also then assist the public sector and private sector to implement their ideas by assisting them and matchmaking them with investors. And so that's in a nutshell the work that we do in destination development. We focus then on places, not on people. And we basically are dealing with tourism places, spaces, and infrastructure development. And if we can go then to the next slide, please. This, Honourable Chair, is our links with the Tourism Sector Recovery Plan. Essentially, we work again across all 3 pillars. In the protect and rejuvenate supply, we have done work on maintenance in our national parks, and that program has come to an end. In this financial year, we are looking at a maintenance program in provincial-owned entities. The second pillar, which is Reignite Demand, we have been doing work on the tourism budget resort pilot, but we have also then been developing new community projects and integrating our work into the DDM1 plans to make sure that we have product that is able to meet the demand of domestic and international tourists. And then in the last pillar, which is strengthening enabling capabilities, we have been doing work on both greenfield and brownfield tourism investment projects. And as indicated, we have been matchmaking these with the various investors and trying to assist project owners to bring these projects to fruition. If we then go through the next slide, we have 8 APP indicators, and the first 2 appear on this slide. If I can take honorable members back a little bit, if you will recall, in the MTF period, we actually developed 4 master plans for different regions in the country. And what we are now doing with those various master plans is to actually take the different projects that find expression in those master plans and integrating them into the DDM1 plans. The reason that we're doing this work, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, is to make sure that over a long term, these projects actually find expression in both the implementation and funding priorities of various districts. So in the Northern Cape, in Namakwa, we are infusing the Orange River Mouth Ecotourism Gateway concept into the 1 plans. In Pixley Kaseme, which is also in the Northern Cape, we are infusing the Karoo Highlands Discovery Experience concept into the DDM1 plans. In KwaZulu-Natal, we are looking at the integration of rural and tourism and township tourism concepts into the broader eThekwini master plans. And then, of course, in the Eastern Cape, in OR Tambo, we are looking at the broader development of the Port St. John's tourism precinct concept, as well as the Ntambalala resort concept. So the idea with all of these plans is that individually by themselves, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, they cost a significant amount of money, and the implementation of our master plans, as we've indicated before, takes between 10 and 30 years. And so by infusing these elements into the 1 plans of the district, we hope that we will also then progressively find the money to implement these large-scale projects, which are tourism projects, in these various spaces. The next indicator is related to the work that we're doing on the budget resort concept and brand. And in this financial year, we will actually implement this concept. We will commence with the implementation in some of the selected properties. If we could then go to the next slide, please. On the next slide, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, is the work that we're doing in an investment facilitation space. There are 2 indicators. The one is related to the pipeline of nationally prioritized tourism investment opportunities, both greenfield and brownfield. And then the second target is really the investment platforms that we take these various projects and project owners to match-make them with the investors. If we can then go to the next slide, Honorable Members and Chair, this now speaks to the program that we are implementing in provincial tourism assets. In this financial year, we're rolling out a program in 5 provinces. And those 5 provinces, if I can take you through them, in the Eastern Cape, we have 6 sites that we're working on, and the total value of our projects at those 6 sites is just over 23 million. Those sites are Thomas Baines Nature Reserve, Baviaanskloof Nature Reserve, Double Mouth Nature Reserve, Overston Nature Reserve, Mpofu and Fordyce, and Tweba and Dwesa Nature Reserves. In the Free State, we're working on 4 sites. The value of the work that we're doing on those 4 sites is just under 20 million. And those 4 sites are the Gerib Dam, Maria Morocco Resort, Philip Saunders, Stakfontein Dam. In Limpopo, we're working on 5 sites and the value of the work is just over 17 million. It's Makapan's Valley and Nwande Nature Reserve, Bloberg Nature Reserve, Musina and Mojaji Nature Reserves. In Mpumalanga, we're also similarly working on 4 sites, Manyeleti, Andover, Songimbelo and SS Kosana Nature Reserves with the value of just over 14 million. And then in the Western Cape, we have 6 sites that are part of the maintenance program. It's a Khayelitsha Lookout Hill, Dwarhoop Nature Reserve, Wolverkloof Nature Reserve, Cedarburg, Gouchama, and Guggelberg Nature Reserves. If we can then move to the next slide. This slide, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, speaks to the work that we're doing on community projects. The details of these projects are contained in our tabled APP on pages 73 to 84. But if I can just then in summary say that we have 11 projects in Limpopo, and the total value of those projects is just over 333 million when we've completed the implementation. In the Eastern Cape, we have 5 projects with a value of just over 149 million. In the Free State, we're working on 3 projects with the value of just over 60 million. In KZN, we have 2 projects with a value of just over 56 million. And in Mpumalanga, there are 2 projects with a value of just over 48 million. In the Northwest, we are working on 3 projects with the value of just over 74 million, back closer to 75. And in the Northern Cape, there are 3 projects with the value of just under 96 million. Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, we have in the past also presented the full scope of all of the infrastructure projects we are working on across the country. And Honourable Members will be familiar with the fact that these are in our APP, not the total sum of all of the projects that we're implementing, but the ones that we want to highlight, I think, in the APP. The next indicator is a new indicator, and it is a township and rural tourism indicator, where we are looking at piloting this year the use of events to actually support township and rural tourism. The idea with this work, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, is of course that we expand it into the next financial year and beyond, and that we look at supporting leisure events and growing these to deal with seasonality and also to grow domestic tourism numbers in the main, and to use events as a catalyst for economic development in these rural and township areas. Next indicator, please. This is the last indicator, which is our work opportunities indicator, which is 4,133. And this, of course, is achieved through both the work that we do in infrastructure development and skills development. With that, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, I will conclude my presentation and hand over to DDG Satwaba.
And thank you very much. Good afternoon, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Members of the Select Committee, Honourable Minister, Honourable Deputy Minister, the Director General of the Department, and all colleagues in the meeting. I'm presenting Program 4, which is Tourism Sector Support Services. This branch enhances transformation of the sector, increases skills levels, and supports development to ensure that our country is a competitive tourism destination. With regards to our targets, annual targets, Under the output in terms of which we want to accelerate the transformation of the tourism sector, we are going to be implementing one incentive programs. DG has already alluded to some of the incentives like the TTF, the market access. Under the APP, we will implement the Green Tourism Incentive Program. Under the quarterly deliverables, we will be reporting on progress that we are making in terms of the implementation of the Green Tourism Incentive Program per quarter. We have a service level agreement with our implementer IDC. There are deliverables in terms of the number of applications that they are looking at, also reporting in terms of how the program is largely implemented to be able to increase a transformation. Throughout the 4 quarters, we will be reporting on those critical aspects, showing progressively how GTIP is contributing towards energy efficiency, water and energy efficiency. Under the output program that are aimed at stimulating domestic tourism, we will be implementing 4 domestic tourism campaigns. Firstly being in this quarter, we are reserving this quarter for planning to ensure that the 4 campaigns go very smoothly in terms of implementation. We are implementing with provinces and some other areas, local government as well. For the first quarter, we are not implementing, we are ensuring that all our ducks are in the row, immediately focusing on the implementation of the World Tourism Day that we celebrate annually in September. We have concluded the rotation list with hosting previous year in the Western Cape. We will be announcing quite shortly where we will be going in terms of the World Tourism Day, but all provinces in this month are packed with activities, and we do support provinces culminating into the main celebration, which is the World Tourism Day. Quarter 3, we will be implementing the festive campaign. We are partnering with our entity, SAT, in terms of making sure that come the festive season, the summer festive, the holidays, our South Africans will be able to travel. We're starting with the planning to ensure that we create the hype so that people are booking well on time to be able to travel within the country. In quarter 4, we will implement a cultural event. We are looking at supporting the Marula Festival in Limpopo and the Mtie in KZN, but we will also start with the implementation of the Easter campaign so that when we get to the Easter of 2024, everything is properly planned. We already have got people stimulated and having made reservations for traveling and accommodation. Next slide, please. In terms of our incubation programs where we are supporting tourism SMMEs, members will be aware that we currently have programs that are running that have started perhaps previous years. The 3 that are existing, which is the Tourism Technology and Innovation Incubator, the Food Service Incubator, and the Community-Based Tourism Enterprises are continuing in the 4 coming quarters. In terms of the technology one, we have 20 incubates, 3 in KZN, we've got 10 in Gauteng, 2 in Limpopo, Malanga 1, Eastern Cape 2, Western Cape 2. These are the ones that have really persisted throughout in terms of the receiving the support, and some of the products and ideas are shaping up in terms of being unleashed into the market. The food service incubator, we've got 100 spread across the country, with Gauteng having quite a larger size of the participants, followed by KZN and some footprint in other provinces. The community-based, we are implementing for projects in 5 provinces. We have got 8 projects that we have identified that are currently in the incubation program. On the next slide, we are adding 2 business incubators. We are going to be supporting SMMEs in Limpopo. These are mainly SMMEs, women-owned enterprises. We are going to be offering business advisory and support. And we will also include business advisory services for homestays. This is a pilot program. Already we are following on the footsteps of SAT, which has done the BQV process for 71 sites in the Eastern Cape. We are coming after them in terms of ensuring that we provide business advisory services to those SMMEs. Throughout the quarters, we will be implementing the deliverables in accordance with the service level agreement that we would have signed with the implementers. We have added a new one in terms of the incubation programs. We are going to be auditing tourism incubators across the country. First quarter, we will identify all the incubators. We will send out a call for incubators that have got tourism businesses to respond. We will also source information from academia in terms of the incubators that we have. Second quarter, we will undertake an audit of the incubators to determine their viability, ensuring that what are the innovation that they can present and also what are their needs. In the third quarter, we will look at whether there are alternative systems for us to be able to support these tourism incubators. Last quarter, we will finalize alternative systems just to enhance the support that we are giving to tourism incubators. This will be coming from the audit. The alternative systems will be coming from the audit that we would have done across the country. Next slide. This is a new one, honorable chair members, that we are introducing, and we are going to be training resource efficiency cleaner production practitioners. The training is geared towards ensuring that we've got young and upcoming resource practitioners who are going to support the sector in terms of moving towards efficient resource utilization. We are looking at around 20 to 25 youth, and will be sourcing them from across the country. Each province will be represented in the 20, and we are trusting that they will be of a great use in terms of advising the tourism industry towards sustainable methods of resource utilization. We are currently recruiting a service provider, and we will be starting in earnest towards the end of this quarter to recruit the 20, induct them, and throughout the quarters we will be reporting on implementation of the training. Next slide. To enhance a visitor service and experience, we will implement 3 programs, one of which will be the implementation of the service excellence standard. We are targeting small towns, and we are targeting tourism and products. This year, we are looking at a small town in Free State. Last year, we implemented in KZN at Bergville. Throughout the quarters, there are certain deliverables in terms of our implementation. The first quarter, we will do stakeholder consultation and seeking endorsement from the stakeholders in terms of the support that are needed to increase visitor service and experience in the area. And we will then, on the second quarter, report on how we are implementing the support or initiatives in the second quarter, the third quarter. The last quarter we will conclude, and then we will also be able to provide a closeout a report on how we have implemented. I must say this is one of the programs where we don't just develop a closeout report, but we leave a legacy team that when we are out in terms of raising awareness about the service excellence standards, there's a legacy team in that town that continues to ensure that enterprises in that area live up to expectations with regards to the support that has been offered to them. The next one on enhancing visitor services. Next slide, please. Will be the implementation of tourism monitors in all 9 provinces, including placing them at the Sanbi and Isimangaliso wetland. We are looking at about 1,840, if I'm not mistaken, tourism monitors that will be placed across the provinces. There's quite a nice spread in terms of the numbers that we will be engaging in all provinces. But the benefit in terms of the stipends that we will be paying to the participants in the monitors, it's just a little under 102 million, over and above the accredited training that we are providing to the participants. We will be reporting on the implementation. There's normally a service level agreement that we sign with the implementer, and we manage them according to the deliverables in the agreed upon in the service level agreement. This is part of the theory. There's part of the theory, and there's part of the placement where they are placed in especially key attractions where tourists are across the provinces. The next one will be on the joint tourist safety awareness sessions that we are going to conduct. We are looking at 4 sessions that we are going to conduct. This is beneficial. This is part of the strategy, the tourism safety strategy, in terms of going out and making our communities aware of the benefits of tourism, but also encouraging our people to participate in tourism, and also to make them aware, raise awareness about the offerings that tourism has to offer. We currently did in the previous financial year, we did Mpumalanga, Western Cape, Limpopo, and KZN. We are looking at the Eastern Cape, Free State, and KZN, but of course we do take the opportunity to take this safety strategy to other areas where there are like a meeting, perhaps, where we are providing awareness sessions of our programs we do take the opportunity to talk about the CVT strategy and how communities can begin to participate in this strategy. Next one. To enhance skills, we have 5 capacity building programs that we are going to implement. The first one, due to the to our initiative in terms of the tourism recovery plan, we will continue with a training on norms and standards. Firstly, we will be training 2,500 unemployed youth on the norms and standards. This training will be an add-on, but with particular emphasis to the trainees that we will be onboarding into our various skills program. For the training on norms and standards, we are targeting 2,005. In the first quarter, we will onboard 625. And in the second quarter, 625, third quarter and last quarter as well. We have spread the 2,005 across the four quarters. We will develop an annual report in terms of the beneficiaries for the training, and also how the training has enhanced the sector in terms of making sure that the safe tourism operations. Next one, please. We are continuing with the training of SMMEs in the norms and standards. This financial year, we are looking at 250 SMMEs and the 1,005 unemployed youth that I have said earlier, Chairperson, Honorable Chair, that we will be adding on to the various skills. We will be adding on the training on norms and standards. On average, we are looking at around 30 per province. We will be sourcing 30 SMMEs, around 30 SMMEs per province to participate in the training on norms and standards. Previously, we have trained, that is the previous year, 598 SMMEs, on average about around 60 per province. We are currently developing a project plan and embarking on procurement processes to ensure that by the second quarter, we have recruited, we have selected SMMEs that are going to be in the training. The training will start in quarter 3. We will continue to do the training, quarter 3 and quarter 4, and then we will report in terms of the training of the 250 by the end of the 4th quarter. Chairperson, on the NTCE, the next slide, please. The NTCE, our annual NTCE, this is the last leg for the Gauteng province. We are currently in planning in terms of producing a project plan for the hosting of the 2023 NTCE. We will implement from quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. We will finalize and produce a project closeout report. I must also say that we do support provinces. The National Tourism Career Expo comes from where provinces also have got their own provincial tourism careers expo. Then it culminates into the NTCE. So it starts now in terms of the project plan, where we plan with provinces in terms of how what kind of support we will be offering, leading towards the final one, which will be held in the 3rd quarter. The last one from my side, Chairperson, no, not the last one, the last but one, will be the a recognition of prior learning process for 50 chefs. We have, in the first pilot phase, we trained 15, we took 15 chefs through the RPL process, and they were based in Gauteng. That was the pilot phase. And last year, the last financial year, we did 30 chefs, all of them happy to announce that they all qualified through this process as professional chefs. We did 30, which were based in Limpopo. This year, the 50 will be a spread between KZN and the Western Cape. We are currently developing a project plan. We will recruit, select, and induct our learners in the second quarter, report on the implementation in the third and the fourth quarter. The last one from my side will be the training on identified skills development program, which is a bit busy for us in terms of the spread. We have, we are already a chairperson, and we have started implementing. We have concluded most of our processes in terms of the 3-month skills programs that we are offering. On the 3 months one, we have almost appointed training is continuing for the food safety quality assurance program. We are looking at Western Cape, Gauteng, Northwest, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northwest. For the wine training, we've got KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Western Cape. We have appointed 50 learners to participate in the program. We are currently working towards ensuring that for Northwest and KwaZulu-Natal, we issue a tender both for the professional cookery and for the food safety quality assurance program. That is on the 12 months program. There's also the 3 months skills a program that we will be running. As I've mentioned, for quarter one, we are currently recruiting and onboarding some of the training in those processes that we started earlier during the last quarter of the previous year. We are already in training. We will continue with the training on quarter two. In quarter three as well, we will develop a report in terms of the conclusion and how the program has been implemented in quarter four. Thank you very much, Chairperson. That is all from my side.
Thank you, CFO.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, DM, DG, and colleagues. So I'm going to present the financial information of the Department of Tourism. I will focus on 2023 figures because that is the focus of the meeting. So for 2023 financial year, which is the current financial year, we have a budget of 2.5 billion allocated for the financial year, and the spread is as follows. 2.9% of the budget is allocated to program 1, 56.9% of the budget is allocated to program 2, 15.9% of the budget allocated to Destination Development Program 3, and 14.4% is allocated to Program 4. So in total, we have a budget of 2.5 billion for the current financial year. Next slide. So in terms of economic classification, under compensation of employees, a budget of 374.5 million is allocated for compensation of employees, which represent 14.8% of the allocated budget. For goods and services, this is where we have budget for administrative purposes as well as for projects. So a budget of 564.5 million is allocated, which represent a 22.4% of the allocated budget. For transfers and subsidies, this is where we have an allocation for the entity, which is South African Tourism. We have a budget of 1.6 billion, which is representing 62.7% of the allocated budget. Under transfers and subsidies, under capital asset, we only have 0.1% of the budget under that item. So the total allocated budget, same as under the programs, under economic classification, it's still 2.5 million. Next slide. So we'll go to the sub-programs per program. So for program 1, we have 5 sub-programs. The first one is ministry, which includes the whole ministry, the minister and the DM. So we have a budget of 37.5 million allocated for ministry, which represent 11.6% of program 1 budget. The next one is management, which is mainly the office of the DG. We have a budget of 3.3 million allocated to management, a sub-program, which represent 1% of a program 1 budget. For corporate management, we have 181.9 million, which represent 56% of program 1 budget allocated for corporate management. We also have financial management with an allocation of 19.5%, with a budget of 63 million allocated to financial management. The last one and the last sub-program under program 1 is office administration, with a budget of 38.8 million, representing 11.9%. Overall budget allocation for program 1 is 324 million. Next one. So in terms of economic classification for program 1, 52.1%, with a budget of 169 million, it's allocated for compensation of employees. Goods and services, it's a budget of 152.7 million, which represent 47% of the allocated budget. Transfers and subsidies, we have 194,000 allocated under that item, that represent 0.1%. And capital assets, which is mainly for administrative purposes, we have 2.8 million, which represent 0.9% of the allocated budget. And under economic classification for program 1, a budget of 324 million is allocated for program 1. Next one. Program 2, which is tourism research policy and international relations. And we have 5 sub-programs. The first one, sub-programs, which talks to tourism research policy and international relations. A budget of 9.9 million is allocated, which represent a 0.7% of program 2 budget. Under the next program, which is research and knowledge management, A budget of 34.6 million is allocated under the sub-program, which represents 2.4% of the allocated budget. Under policy planning and strategy, a budget of 15.4 million allocated, which represent 1.1% of the allocated budget. And South African tourism, we have a budget of 1.3 billion allocated for South African tourism, which represent a big chunk of 93.7% of Program 2 budget. And the last sub-program is international relations and cooperation. A budget of 30.4 million is allocated, which represent 2.1%. And overall, under Program 2, we have a budget of 1.4 billion allocated under that program. Next one. So this is in terms of economic classification for Program 2. Again, for compensation of employees, 60.7 million is allocated for compensation of employees, which represent an allocation of 4.2% of the allocated budget under Program 2. Goods and services, they have a budget of 22.7 million, which represent 1.6% of the allocated budget. Transfers and subsidies, which is mainly transferred to the agency side, and a budget of 1.3 billion allocated, which represent 94.1% of the allocated budget. The last one, it's capital asset item, 655,000, which represent 0.05% of the allocated budget. Overall for Program 2, 1.4 billion allocated. Next. Under Program 3, Destination Development, we have 4 sub-programs. The first one being Destination Development Management. We have a budget of 10.6 million allocated for the first sub-program, which represents 2.7% of the allocated budget. The second one is Tourism Enhancement, budget allocated of 24 million, which represents 6% of the allocated budget. The third one is Destination Planning and Investment Coordination. We have a budget of 31 million allocated, which represents 7.8% of the allocated budget. And Working for Tourism, this is where we run most of our projects, the EPWP program. So we have a budget of 334.7 million allocated for those projects, which represent an 83.5% of the allocated budget. Overall, under Program 3, Destination Development, 401 million has been allocated under Program 3. Next slide. So the next slide represents the economic classification of Program 3, Destination Development for compensation of employees. A budget of 61 million has been allocated, which represents 15.2% of the allocated budget under Program 3. Next one is Goods and Services. We also have some projects being run from this item under Program 3. So 339 million has been allocated, which represent 84.8%. The last two items, it's about 0.005 allocated to those items. Overall, Destination Development budget amounts to 401 billion. Next slide. So the last program is Program 4, Tourism Sector Support Services. We have 5 sub-programs under Program 4. The first one being Tourism Sector Support Services Management. We have a budget of 11.7 million allocated, which represent 3.2% of program 4 budget. The next one is tourism human resource development. We have a budget of 31 million, which represent 8.7% of the allocated budget. Sub-program number 3 is enterprise development and transformation, a budget of 50 million allocated for the sub-program, which represent 13.8% of program 4 budget. Sub-program number 4 is tourism visitor services. A budget of 26 million has been allocated, which represents 7.3% of a program 4 budget. The last one, that's where we run most of our projects under program 4. Tourism incentive program, we have a budget of 243 million, which represents 67% of program 4 budget. Overall, under program 4, we have a budget of 363 million allocated. Next slide. So in terms of economic classification under program 4, we have a budget of 83 million, representing 23% of a program 4 budget allocated for compensation of employees. For goods and services, we have a budget of 49 million allocated for goods and services, representing 13.5% of program 4 budget. Transfers and subsidies, this is where we run most of our projects under program 4. We have a budget of 230 million allocated, which represents 63.5% of the allocated budget under program 4. Overall, we have a budget allocation of 363 million allocated for program 4. Next slide. And this is the part where I say thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, DG. Any areas of emphasis?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I think we are covered. The main thing what Minister and DM have been impressing upon us is that we have all these different targets across different indicators that have been tracked over time by the Auditor General in terms of what we have committed in the strategic plan and what we need to make sure that is done, so that by the time we come to the end of the term, we have achieved all that we made commitment to do within this particular term of administration. So our targeting and so on is also in part informed by that. And as we move forward, we would also be making sure that we put a bit of speed in that implementation. But we are happy that our footprint is across the country in the main. I think that is important for us, and we will make that contribution as we continue with the implementation of the various projects that we have presented today. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'll hand back to the DM. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the DM will come in when we respond to questions, but also make closing remarks touching on the department as well as SAT. For now, we'll hand over to SAT. I'll give you 30 minutes to do everything. In 30 minutes, members have been here since in the morning. Yeah, and they've received the presentation, so just the highlights. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson. I hope you can hear me well right now.
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you so much. As I said earlier, my name is Nomasol Ndlovu. I'm acting CEO at the moment. I am supported here from SAT executives by the acting Chief Quality Assurance Officer, that is for TGCSA, the Tourism Grading Council, Ms. Bronwyn Oret. You can show your face, Bronwyn. Are you not online? I'm also supported by the acting Chief of National Convention Bureau. This is Ms. Zinhle Nzama. Zinhle.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm also supported by the acting Chief Strategy Officer at South African Tourism, who is also the head of Digitech. He is online with us, Mr. Robert Manson. Robert, please show your face.
Good afternoon, members of the Select Committee.
Good afternoon, Robert. We've seen you last, I think that the travel in Daba.
Yes, okay, thank you. And then I'm also supported by the acting Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Themba Ndlovu. Themba?
Your brother.
I must declare your brother is not. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Good
much.
afternoon, everybody. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I just wanted to upfront just share with the team that will be supporting me. Our approach, Chairperson, I will go through all the slides. You've given me very short time, so I'll go through all the slides, and the Chief Financial Officer will come through towards the end with the finance information. If I can just go through slide number 1, please. Okay, thank you so much. So that will show you the overview of what we're going to cover this afternoon. I am going to go through the strategic overview of SA Tourism just as a recap. Our marketing prioritization and investment framework. This just shows where we market and how we actually select those markets. I'll just have a slide on environmental analysis just to share with the members where we are in terms of marketing tourism and environment we're operating in. I will also cover 1 or 2 slides on our strategy, how we approach our work, and how we collaborate with the provinces, and I'll get into the actual APP, the program's targets, and the budget allocation. Next slide, please. Next, please. In terms of our strategic overview as South African tourism, we pull from the legislative mandate from the Act as a Schedule 3A public entity that is established in terms of Section 9 of the Tourism Act of 2014, with the vision of really making sure that South Africa is positioned as an exceptional tourist and business events destination that offers a value for money, quality tourist experience that is diverse and unique. How we try to do this in terms of our mission by implementing an integrated tourism marketing strategy for the country, by promoting South Africa as a world-class business events destination, facilitating the delivery of service-oriented quality assured tourism experiences, and positioning South African tourism as an industry thought leader, championing a digital outlook for the industry, and enhancing our stakeholder participation and collaboration. Next slide, please. This slide, I won't get into the details, but it tries to summarize in terms of our overview the link of our work to the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, which is a key document that informs what we are doing, from which the tourism sector strategy was then developed. So we, as a department, has also demonstrated we draw from those documents in order to develop our work for the year. The role of SA Tourism as per the Tourism Sector Recovery Plan is to stimulate the domestic demand through targeted initiatives and campaigns, and to execute a global marketing program to reignite international demand. So our policy mandate, and in particular in this APP, has been aligned to the implementation requirements of the Tourism Sector Recovery Plan. Next slide, please. I will move into the marketing prioritization. As SA Tourism, what we do is that through research, we go and investigate in terms of how we are actually going to approach the marketing and prioritize the markets, because there's a lot of markets in the world. We don't have the budgets to target all of them. So through this, what we call MPIF, we identify the market and making sure that we're optimizing marketing investments across the identified target markets, and then distributing the resources to help meet the set objectives. So what we've done through this MPIF, work was done in 2016 to 2017, and then there was another piece of work that was done to review the MPIF in early 2020, using 2019 as a base. So that is what we are currently using. Through that, we then, when we were identifying this and revising the MPIF, what we're aiming to do was to review and update the various parameters to ensure a robust view of the current business environment and market prioritization, support day-to-day decision-making through an enhanced view on increasing and tapping into short-term opportunities, as well as transition key elements of the MPIF model to a power business intelligence environment to enable easy access and navigation and usage. Out of this process then came 24 markets that have been prioritized and segmented into 16 growth markets and 8 defend markets, with an additional set of markets earmarked as what we call watch list markets. So the 24 prioritized markets accounted for 92% of all the international trips in 2019. So as I said, there's 3 markets: growth, defend, as well as watch list. For each of these markets, we implement different strategic tactics that help us to do the marketing in those areas, focusing on the target of either growth, defend, or a watch list. But we don't have the same effort for all of them because they are all not the same as per this research. Next slide, please. So this is a graphic depiction of these markets. What you see on the growth markets are the blue markets are all the growth markets. That means we're putting in a lot of money into those. It is across the world. Defend markets are markets where we are very, very strong and we don't want to lose that market. So typically those are our African markets. Look at Africa land, key markets, as well as our air markets as well. So Zambia, Malawi, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Swaziland, Lesotho, Botswana, and Namibia, those will form our defend markets. And then we've got our growth markets. And then on the side, we've got what we call the watch list markets. With the watch list markets, they are key to monitor, as this is where South Africa needs to protect its previous marketing investments. So here we seek to build demand in second-tier markets that provide a pipeline for future growth and that may diversify the portfolio of source countries to mitigate the risk of depending only on the 24 markets. So they become our pool that in the future they may go into growth or defend markets. Next slide, please. In terms of environmental analysis here, we're just looking at the performance of where the industry is coming out of COVID-19. We're looking at the forecast of 2022 to 2032. What is projected globally here is that this industry is supposed to, within these years, 22 to 32, it's expected to deliver 126 million new jobs, an average annual growth in terms of GDP of 5.8%, and a global economy of about average of about 2.7%. So we are sitting in a very promising sector in terms of the long term, which forecasts that this travel and tourism contribution to the global economy will grow and grow at a very healthy 5.8%, and which is more than double the 2.7% average annual growth rate estimated for the global economy. So we are in a good space, and jobs, it looks like it will deliver for us. Next slide, please. I'm not going to get into the details, but this just shows that we draw a lot of inspiration and learnings from what is happening within the United Nations World Tourism Organization, the UNWTO. We look at how they are focusing, and we look at where the markets are going to go when we do our work. I'm not going to go into that detail, Honorable Chairperson. Next slide, please. We thought it would be key to also just highlight our strategy and how we approach the work that we do. So in SA Tourism, we've sort of divided our work in terms of what we call the brand design architecture in terms of two key areas. The corporate brand, so this is South African Tourism Agency of the department as an organization, as a corporate. And then the second part of our work, which is very critical, is the destination brand. This is about positioning the country for tourism. So we always look at the both areas when we're doing our marketing. What are we doing as an organization and at a corporate level, and what are we doing to position the destination brand that is South Africa? And then within that, there's various platforms that we have identified, and some are known to the honorable members. From a leisure point of view, there is the Mega Africa's Tourism Indaba, the third largest in the world that is held in South Africa every year. In the business events platforms, we've got Meetings Africa, really growing phenomenally, positioning South Africa as a meetings and conference destination, very key to us as well. From an excellence point of view and quality assurance, this is the Lilizela Awards. I will talk to them a little bit later. Quality platforms, we have our star grading system through the Tourism Grading Council. We then have our trade channel brand, which is the SA Specialist. This is really about training the trade to become specialists of South Africa and know how to sell the destination. And then we have what we call the National Conventions Bureau, which manages all the work that has got to do with bidding for meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions that people may want to host in South Africa. They also manage all our strategic platforms, honorable members. Next slide, please. We've developed a marketing strategy. I'm not going to get into it, but just to highlight, it is anchored on 7 very key pillars. And here we want to make sure that we focus on the marketing mandate that we've been given, and not just marketing from a pictures point of view, but marketing by numbers to show the impact of the marketing on the numbers that are important in terms of the recovery plan, in terms of the economic contribution of tourism. The economic impact story is linked to what I've just said. What is key is that SAT becomes a double-digit contributor to the South African economy in terms of the work that we do. Internally, what we want to drive is what we're calling a corporate compliance story, so that we make sure that we obtain an unqualified and or clean audit. I know clean audit is the word that we would like to have, but this really is about our license to operate. Also internally, we are driving to become a best place to work, and making sure that in terms of public service entities, we become one of the key and great places where people would want to work and attract the right talent. On the profit story side is something we've identified that we felt it was quite key. This is about partnerships between South African tourism and its value chain partners, which should result in sustainable achievement of goals. So whatever we do must be meaningful to the partners, and they must draw a benefit and feel that we impact their profit as well. Destination exceptionalism story here is about South African tourism leading in the tourism propositions in terms of how it markets to the world. And last but certainly not least, our domestic tourism story, where we make sure that South African citizens are the bedrock of the tourism economy of South Africa. And this they have proven during COVID and now post-COVID. Next slide, please. We thought it was critical just to highlight how we collaborate actually with our provinces, because all the work that we do, we actually collaborate with the provinces. So what we've done, just to put systems in place, we have signed MOUs with all the 9 provinces, with the main purpose to make sure that we can collaborate, commit, and align strategic and tactical plans and resources of whatever nature that may be required. And these MOUs, they cover various areas in terms of travel, trade, joint leisure marketing, event support, business events, market access platforms, quality assurance, transformation research, as well as information sharing. We've set up some structures for engaging. We have got the CEOs forum. In fact, on the CEOs forum, we also engage the CEOs and the chairperson of the boards as a structure where we engage and look for, and as well as look at what their needs are. We have the marketing forum where all the marketing, the CMOs and the heads of marketing around the country, from the entities point of view, we sit together and we share our plans and we collaborate. And then we have the business events coordination forum. All these 3 forums, they congregate into one, what we call a planning conference once a year, where we all sit together, and we've just introduced this to be able to align our plans and our APPs, and then be transparent to them in terms of how we are planning. So this we started in 2022, and we felt that it's gone very well, and we will continue into the future. Next slide, please. I thought it would be important just to also show in terms of the work that we are doing, and maybe how then it translates in terms of the arrivals into the provinces. So what you're seeing here is a provincial distribution of international arrivals, bearing in mind that a lot of our work is done in international markets to actually bring the people into South Africa. And then when they come to South Africa, we are very interested to know where exactly do they go, the distribution of those bums that come to South Africa. So currently, Gauteng is the province received the highest share of arrivals with 40.4% or 2.3 million arrivals, and Mpumalanga contributed significantly with a 20.8% share in 2022, number 3 being the Western Cape with a 16.0% share. And I've put the splits there where you can see all the provinces. You can see 2019, you can see the share in 2019, you can then see 2022, and you can see the share and the arrivals compared to what has happened. Bearing in mind that we have not all recovered in terms of the international arrivals, but that shows you where the numbers are going. I think it's quite interesting. Free State sitting at about a share of 10.8%, Northwest 4.7%, Limpopo 7.4%, Mpumalanga 20.8%, KwaZulu-Natal 9.7%, Eastern Cape 3.4%, Western Cape 16%, and Gauteng is 40.4%. Next slide, please. This one is even more interesting because here we talk about the total foreign direct spend by province. So this is the money they come into the country and what they spend. So when they come to the country, Gauteng and the Western Cape showed dominance in terms of the spend in 2019 as well as in 2022. So an area that we are really watching quite keenly, because we would like them to spend more, and we'd like to distribute that money strongly in all the provinces. Next slide, please. This one is about the number of domestic trips by the destination province, so where they go, and the number of trips. You are here able to see 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022 trips. If we look just at 2022, we can see that Eastern Cape had a share of 14%. And this share of 14.9 has significantly increased to the share they had of trips in 2019. Free State had 10.7 in 2019. Now it's 8.7 in 2022. Gauteng, their share was 20.3 in 2019. Now 16.8. So I'm not going to go through all of them, the numbers, but that shows what has happened domestically. So key destination provinces from 2019 to 2022 included KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, Limpopo, and the Eastern Cape. Next slide, please. The spend in the provinces, Gauteng province has consistently contributed the most money spent domestically. Everybody thinks there's nothing to see in Gauteng, but clearly people go around in Gauteng and they see stuff. So Gauteng has done exceptionally well in terms of the spend spent in terms of the provinces. I won't go through all of them, but you might be interested to check. Western Cape got a share of 12.8% in 2022. It grew from 17.6 in 2019. KwaZulu-Natal, that's my home province, they were at 18.3 in 2019, and now they are sitting at about 20%. So this is a share of their spend in the provinces. Next slide, please. What we also wanted to share was the work that we are doing with the Grading Council specifically in the provinces. The Tourism Grading Council does an amazing work, and that is one, the grading itself, but more importantly, in my view, is the basic quality verification, which is really about targeting those who have not been in the mainstream of tourism, specifically the BTSDs and the homestays. And what we have in the current plan, we will be going around with this work. So first of all, we will be going around with the grading criteria review, stakeholder engagements, because we are in the process of reviewing the grading criteria, and then with the basic quality verification in April and March up to 2024 this year. We'll be focusing on the KZN rollout and targeting provinces to engage for the new BQB MOU funding, which is the Western Cape, Gauteng, Limpopo, as well as the Northern Cape. From a grading point of view, we've got a plan rolled out all the way up to June for all the provinces where we'll be going, consulting stakeholders on this very important work. Thank you very much. Next slide. At the key of the work that is done by the Grading Council is the Lilizela Awards. The Lilizela Tourism Awards program is a program that was launched back in 2013. South Africa's premier travel and tourism awards. We want to call it, this is the Oscars of tourism, and they have the key objective to recognize and celebrate tourism businesses for tourism excellence, for their contribution to South Africa's global competitiveness, and for growing tourism's contribution towards GDP and job creation. So because of the COVID-19, we had to take a break because we wouldn't be tone deaf and try to celebrate when the industry wasn't really, doing so well. So we are returning in 2023 following this 3-year of hiatus due to the impact of COVID-19. So we're very excited about it. I'm personally very excited about this. It is the glitz and glam of tourism. And there's new products. So I'm excited to see what will come through from there. Next slide, please. Again, on the collaborations with the provinces, the short left domestic campaign is the umbrella campaign theme that all our campaigns in domestic are actually housed under. Within the short left theme, we roll out 3 important campaigns. In these quarters, we will also roll out these campaigns. We roll out the Easter campaign. This year, we rolled out what is called the Sit at the Table campaign, which has a national reach from radio, TV, social media, as well as out of home. We will also be rolling out, we start with a short left travel week, which is another promotion. We call it the Black Friday of tourism, but we just don't do it in November. We do it in September. So we will start with those promotions towards the end of this quarter. And we will also then continue these promotions. We will then launch the short left campaign for the travel week happens in and around the winter. And then we then move towards launching the summer campaign that takes us to the whole of towards the end of the year. When we come back at the beginning of the year with the Easter campaign. So these campaigns, they run concurrently in terms of all our media platforms, but specifically we go around and do some road shows in some of the other campaigns, like the summer campaign we've done last year, and we would like to repeat this national road show that we did last year. Can I have the next slide, please? On the National Conventions Bureau, the NCB, I did say that they are responsible for making sure that the country can bid for hosting of these international and national conferences, incentives, and exhibitions. So this process, the destinations will put forward proposals and compete for the right to host a particular business event. This process is often highly competitive, with multiple destinations putting forward detailed proposals, selling their regions as the most suitable for the event. So we have to compete within that. So the bidding enables South Africa to generate both micro and macroeconomic benefits for the country's economy. And the microeconomic impact is generated through the consumption of tourism-related goods and services, including transportation, food and beverages, accommodation, and tourism experiences. You know, when you go to a conference, you don't just go to the conference venue, but you will use all these other services, and that becomes the macroeconomic impact for that particular event. So bidding also enables South Africa to secure business events that are aligned with the national government's priority sectors for growth and development that can drive some of the following outputs. And what we've seen, what I'm showing you now, is actual bids that we have submitted, and the financial support that has been committed for these various events, but this is within each of the provinces. So Eastern Cape, 502, Gauteng, 9 million, Free State 492, Northwest 574. So that is the split, but it totals to a 46.9 million financial bid support committed for bidding of these for these events for South Africa. What we can see also here is that this is bid supported, but within that there are bids that have been submitted but not yet decided. So those are worth about 2.2 million, and there's 5 of those, and hopefully when they decide, we are the winning bidders in South Africa. Next slide, please. We also run the National Association project. This project is really about spreading the economic benefits and creating future bidding opportunities, but particularly to support the small towns that don't get the benefit, because if you look at conferences, they tend to go to places where there's huge infrastructure. So your large meetings will typically go to where there are international convention centers. So this project was specific to say, we know about the big cities, but how about the small villages, towns, and small districts, and so that we can also support them. So there's an active project that we are doing. Next slide, please. And through this National Association project for VTSDs, I'm showing you here what we did last year. These are the various associations, the events and their dates, the host small town and village, and then what was the reason for the selection. So we're going to continue with this project. It is in our APP because we found that it does amazing things for particular provinces. Next slide, please. South African Tourism has identified what we call strategic platforms to create market access, particularly for SMEs. These platforms and exhibition, they are under the National Conventions Bureau, which is mandated to identify viable trade platforms for the South African and regional tourism industry. And the global trade platforms play an important part in marketing South Africa as a destination and present an opportunity for products to have access to them, as well as transact with various international buyers. So all it means here is that with this platform that we've identified across the world, we then travel with SMEs to these shows around the world. So we will fund them, we will put them in front of the international buyers, and these are the guys who normally are young, they are SMEs, they are women, they are people who wouldn't necessarily have had the opportunity. So they go to all these particular platforms. So for example, IMEX is in Germany, there's America, there's WTM in London, there's IBTM World in Spain, there's Fitur and ITB in Berlin. The ATM is an Arabian travel market happening in the Middle East. So you can see there the number of exhibitors, the SMEs that we take there, and what we do, we set up meetings for them, and we can track how many meetings were held per platform, as you can see. And how we draw these SMEs, we draw them from all our 9 provinces. You know, we put out a call and they all apply, and then we would fund the traveling expenses and exhibition at these shows. Next slide, please. So coming into the programs, I'm going to whiz through this part, Honorable Chair. Next slide. We have got 5 programs. Program 1 is corporate support, really focusing on governance, internal audit, finance and supply chain, human capital, ICT, as well as the work done in the Office of the Chief Executive Officer, as well as what we call SPEPM, which is Strategic Planning, Evaluation, and Program and Management. We have got the business enablement. This is where we champion our digital transformation in terms of Digitech. It's also housing our analytics and insights and research area. It's also got our government and stakeholder relations as well. Next slide, please. Our major and key demand and creation platforms or the program that drives the major work that we do that is within our mandate is Program 3, Program 4, and Program 5. This is the Program 3 is our leisure tourism marketing, all our brand and marketing work, all the campaigns, The tourism executionist are all our international marketing work happening in the countries, as well as our global trade work, where we work very closely with airlines, making sure that the skies are open for South Africa to drive the arrivals into the country. And then in business events, it's really about growing the nation's business events industry, business development and support services for meetings and incentives and conferences and trade exhibitions, as well as the strategic platforms that I spoke about earlier. The tourist experience is the Grading Council of South Africa. They are responsible for quality assurance and development, visitor experience, as well as brand experience, and the all-important basic quality verification work that I spoke about. Next slide, please. Program 1, this is the first output there is about governance and internal control. Our output indicators here is about 1, improving the risk maturity level. Here we want to make sure that we have improved the risk maturity level up by 1 level from the prior assessment. We have split our work in terms of the quotas as it is required. So in quarter 1, we'll implement the recommendations from the financial year of 2022-23 risk management maturity assessment report that we've done, and then we continue to implement these quarter by quarter, because the plan is divided into quarter. In quarter 3, we'll start conducting the full the financial year 2023 risk management maturity assessment, so that we can start concluding, coming up with a plan and coming up with the implementation in quarter 4 of the recommendations coming out of that assessment. The next output indicator is a corporate compliance campaign, what we have called Operation Clean Audit. We want to make sure that we have a focused clean audit project. Here is about corporate compliance campaign, making sure that when it comes to the front of compliance, we are very much on point. We've split our work in quarters as well. In quarter 1 is about implementing the quarter 1 milestones that we identified in the compliance campaign, and then we split those into quarters. So there's implementation milestones for quarter 2 and quarter 3 and quarter 4, really about making sure that the audit action plan is something that we strongly focus on to make sure that we can improve our audit outcomes. The third output indicator there is about the percentage implementation of valid internal and external audit recommendations. So very much linked to the Operation Clean Audit, and really making sure that we have got the annual target there is 100% implementation of valid audit recommendations, and we split that is cumulative 25% in quarter 1, 50% in quarter 2, 75 and 100% in quarter 4. Next slide, please. When I continue here, it's under financial management in terms of the output. Our indicators here is percentage payment of compliant invoices within the 30-day period from date of receipt. Here in terms of the annual target is to ensure 100% payment of compliant invoices within 30 days from the date of receipt. And you can see the targets per quarter is to get the 100% in each of the quarters. The other output indicator under financial management is a number of initiatives to promote integrity and ethical conduct in supply chain management, implemented as per section 57 of the PFMA. So the annual target here is the 6 SCM ethics and integrity initiatives that are implemented. And again, we've split our work here in terms of each of the quarters. Quarter 1, letters confirming budget allocation and related accountability issued to business unit managers. We then monitor non-compliance to SCM policies and procedures. In quarter 2, capability building for procurement committees. Quarter 4, monitoring of non-compliance to supply chain management policies and procedures. Also, the other implementation in quarter 1, this is number 2, capability for procurement committees. and in quarter 2, conducting organization-wide training on ethics and public service and monitoring of non-compliance to SEM policies and procedures, and conducting another training in quarter 4. And the third element there in terms of quarter 1 is creating awareness organization-wide on SEM code of conduct, something that we're starting in this quarter. The other output here is revenue enhancement and cost optimization. Our annual target here is to finalize the budget optimization strategy that we started developing, approve the budget optimization in strategy in quarter 1, develop and approve policy to execute this budget optimization strategy in quarter 2. In quarter 3, develop implementation plan to execute it. And then in quarter 4, make sure that we roll out the implementation. Next slide, please. On human capital, here there's quite a few areas in terms of the output indicators. The one is staff engagement score, which is something that we track, and we run a survey. We've just run a survey now, and we're developing an action plan in quarter 1 to address the issues that are arising from the staff engagement assessment, to ensure that we have an engaged workforce. We continue to implement the actions by quarter throughout all the quarters. And then in quarter 4, we then do another assessment again to determine the staff engagement score and see if we are making any improvements and make the tweaks into the plan as required. In terms of quarter 4, we will also table staff engagement score survey report with EXCO. The second very big implementation output indicator here is the implementation of the employment equity plan. Here we have quite a few indicators. I just run through them: percentage of women in South African tourism, percentage of women in senior and top management positions in South African tourism, percentage of people with disabilities employed within South African tourism. We're putting targets for all of these, maintaining at least 60% Black people within that category is Africans, Coloureds, and Indians across all occupational levels. And we put targets there, which we put in each of the quarters. Then the next indicator there is the labor turnover as a percentage of average head count. And we put a target there of less than 8%. Vacancies as a percentage of a staff establishment, our vacancy rate, it is something also that we want to target to be below 8% as required by government. I can say for now we are battling in that space as it is at the moment, but it is a target that we have put in for ourselves into 2023, 2024. Next slide, please. Another area here is the ICT environment in terms of our key output. Output indicator here, ICT governance framework implemented. This has been developed, and now the target for 2023-24 is the financial year 2023-2024 roadmap for ICT governance framework to be implemented. Again, here we've put in these milestones per quarter that need to be implemented. Quarter 1, these are coming out of the roadmap that has been developed, and we want to implement these in each of the quarters. There are specific deliverables that have been put in the roadmap, and then we track them per quarter in terms of the deliverable. Next slide, please. This area is an area that now talks to our digital area of operation. Critical output indicator here, integrated digital analytics operating framework, annual roadmap implemented. Again, here the annual target is to implement year 2 roadmap of the integrated digital and analytics operating framework. We've done the year 1, so we are now moving into year 2, and we have now split into quarters the various milestones as per the year 2 roadmap of this digital and analytics operating framework. It will go into quarter 1 all the way up to quarter 4. Tourism information gathering, a critical part in terms of South African tourism. Here, our annual target is to make sure that we deliver 5 tourism information tracking surveys are completed. There's various pieces that we put in the different quarters, starting in quarter 2, International Leisure and Brand Tracker Global Fieldwork Report will be delivered. In quarter 3, International Leisure Brand Tracker Global Fieldwork report again will be delivered, as well as in quarter 4. We will also in quarter 1 do the departure survey fieldwork, as well as a domestic tourism survey fieldwork report. And these are split. These are the research work that will be split in various of those quarters. I'm not going to go into the details, but it's all in there. But these are very important. The industry relies on this information to also drive the work that they do. So that becomes quite important. In terms of the tourism trends, we want to do this year 4 quarterly trend analysis report. 1 in quarter 1, 1 in quarter 2, 1 in quarter 3, 1 in quarter 4. And then the part that we really want to focus on as well is making sure that we can become a tourism thought leader. And we want to deliver 8 thought leadership pieces that we want to publish, 2 in quarter 1, 2 in quarter 2, and in all the quarters we're going to have 2 of each of those thought leadership pieces that we think they're quite important. Next slide, please. This one is all about our tourism research. The annual target here is 4 tourism statistics and performance reports. Here in quarter 1, we want to have 1 tourism stats and performance report delivered, and another one in quarter 2 and quarter 3 and quarter 4. So we want to make sure that these statistics and performance reports are out each of the quarters. They become very, very important documents for our sector. The next output is under stakeholder management. Here it's about South African tourism as a corporate. As I said earlier, we are also keen to see how stakeholders rate how we engage with them. So we conduct what is called a South African Tourism Corporate Brand Index. This is an annual target. So we do it once every 2 years, and then we develop the improvement plan on the basis of that, and then this is what we implement every quarter. So we have received one now, which we did in February. Now we're developing the plan. That plan, we start implementing it in this quarter, and then we break down the implementation activities into all of the quarters as demonstrated in this report. And then in quarter 4, we then conduct the survey again to see where we are landing and if we are improving in terms of how our stakeholder environment, both local and international, how they view South African tourism. That is quite important for us. Organizational environment. This is about the rating of South African tourism as the best company to work for. I did mention this as part of our marketing strategy. So this one is a new target. We want to determine how we are doing in this area. So we will be doing a baseline rating in this financial year. So we will aim to quarter 1 with doing the survey and then doing the action plans and improvement plans that are going to come from that report throughout the year. We've moved our global PR to be sitting in this area, the global PR and comms, focusing our work really on the corporate brand, and we will then develop and approve our PR and Communications Annual Plan in Q1, and then implement the milestones of those throughout the year. Next slide, please. Program 3, as I said, this is the core of the organization, and the core of the business is this program, Program 4, as well as Program 5. The key output here is the Global Tourism Brand Campaign that we aim to have every year. This last financial year, we have been rolling out a post-COVID campaign, which was called Live Again. So this has been our campaign, which will be moving into its second year, which will be Live Again 2.0. And then in terms of the annual target is to have the Global Tourism Brand Campaign Plan implemented, which is the 2.0 of the Live Again. So that is what we want to do in this year. We also want to have global tourism campaigns localized in South Africa, as well as global brand collaborations and other partnerships, as well as secure. As far as the implementation of the campaigns, we look at our work in terms of the quotas and finalizing the global brand campaign plan in Q1, launching Live Again 2.0 at Africa's Tourism Indaba, that's coming up in May. In Q2, implementing the milestone of the campaign plan. In Q3, implementing those milestones again that are set for Q3 as well as Q4. In terms of the localization, we want to obviously take that global campaign, localize it for South Africa as well, and the work will be done. We'll have 2 in Q1 and 1 in Q2 for South Africa. And the third part there is about brand collaborations. And here the global brand collaborations and partnerships secured. We need 2 of those. We set a target for 2 in Q1, and then roll out of those collaborations starting from Q2 and Q3 as well as. And under embassy